Good, everybody. Still here. Daily Market Pulse. It is Thursday, June 5th. We have stocks going higher and aggressively higher for that matter, in higher volume as well. So that's not what it looks like. As always, I got an update. And there it is. So the Dow Jones busts out after three sideways days, clears finally this resistance area, if you will, 16,750 into the 16.8 plus area on its way to 17,000. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? 17,000. Amazing. So that's where we're heading. Support across the current breakout area across 16. We'll call it 16,750 as a support area for polarity. We've got the S&P doing the same thing. We're going to call it 1925. All the way down to 1900 potentially, but room now to 2000 as a round number near the top of the channel. NASDAQ also shows signs of breaking out into 4300, room to 4350 and 40 and higher. It's going to be more like 4375 ultimately, but 4300, 4350 first and foremost, with a V-shaped formation developing, and then the support at 4250 and down to 4200 thereafter. If we look at the TSX, for our fine Canadian friendly friends, we have the rise for the last 4 days, including today another high, and looking for ultimately 15,000 and a breakout above this little consolidation area that we're currently witnessing. All the trends and moving averages rising still. US dollar, Canadian dollar is not showing today's candle yet for some reason. It's still not. I believe it should be higher. Let me go to 15-minute chart for you just real quick. Yeah, got into 109.60, dropped all the way to 109 and a quarter. 109.60. Yep. So this is a little bit higher, than dropped a little bit. So it's about where it was now, holding just at the 50-day moving average for the time being. The Euro US was kind of going sideways as well. It continues to hold right below that polarity, and that's about it. Treasuries has been showing signs of decline. Yesterday paused right there at 135-ish, and that's kind of where it's essentially has stayed and established itself. I'm not getting the updated candle here for some reason either. This is a September contract, so maybe I don't know what's going on. But anyway, there's your huge drop, and then oddly the bounce, which was interesting because the markets dropped on the open as well, and they aggressively went higher. This went lower, but then higher again. Currently at 135.11. After dropping down a little bit below 135. So it's still pretty much at the same price after tagging approximately the 50-day moving average. And that's about it. So it's holding for now. 200 still rising, 50 still rising. So kind of half expecting a bounce here that could continue, or at least at a minimum, sideways action for treasuries, which is odd considering what the markets are doing as well. They can't possibly be doing the same thing. It's just pretty rare. And when it does, it's still pretty weird. And then we have Japanese yen, currently into a support area. I don't know why things aren't updating, but nonetheless, 97.70 is where we are. So a little higher with a little bit of a bounce that we're seeing here established on the yen, with a possible move back to higher unless it breaks this level for support. Gold quieting down remarkably at a former pivot area established in February. Lower levels remain 1220 to 1200. Silver kind of the same thing, still holding recent lows and holding those levels reasonably well, right at about 1860 is about all it's doing there, with possibilities of a bounce. And then we're seeing CL. We're seeing crude having flushed lower, but then holding its own at the 50 and the 20-day moving average as well, in a former small pivot area about 102.5 with room to 104.50 above. If it drops below 102.50 and 102 in particular, then you're looking at 101, the bottom trend line. Small caps IWM, aggressive move as we saw elsewhere. Through the 50, through 114 with room to 116, but more so room all the way to 120 ultimately. That's a pretty sharp move. So it bounced off the support 107, 108, came into the 50, declined and paused at the window across 112, held, and then aggressively moved through 114, 114.78 currently with room higher still, 116 and higher. And then the VIX, to finalize, the VIX is fairly subdued here, below 12, above $12 itself. I'm sorry, $11, pardon me. So $12 above, $11 below, and that's about it. Usually when it's in this area, it gets a little jumpy. We might see a little choppiness, a little bit of up and down in the markets, but for the most part right now, everything looks very bullish on the markets with no reason to show signs of selling just yet.